Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to day three of the Fundraiser's Guide to Digital 2023. You're very kind for joining us. We're delighted you have. We're just going to wait a minute or two just as people start to gather. More people are logging on. We're getting signals here from the crew behind the camera. Special thanks to James for sorting all this out today. We're here in the lovely offices of Havas Media. I'm joined by Adam. And we have some more guests through the course of the webinar to go through some of the topics. We've had two sessions so far. If you haven't been able to join them, we will make all the recordings and all the PDFs of those presentations available to everybody who's registered. We'll be sending them around to you after this, including the recording and PDFs from this presentation, because I know there's a lot of other things going on, including the fundraising conference in Holland. So we'll make all the material available to you. We've a lot to get through, so I'm going to start by handing over to Adam. As you can see from the slide behind us, the email sent around. When we asked people to sign up for this seminars first, we asked you all to highlight the kind of areas that you wanted to talk about. One of the top ones was Google Analytics 4, so we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover social media, and we're going to cover the most powerful tool of all, which is email. We'll say some special things about email to try and get you to think about email in your fundraising in not a different way, but in a fresh way. But first, I'll hand over to Adam, and he will take you through, and I'll tune in with you later on.
Thanks very much. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to get the most out of your GA4. My clicker will just yeah. So I've been working with Google Analytics for 5 years now. I've worked with brands of all sizes, including lots of charities. So hopefully, I can make today's session practical for you guys. Just have 3 goals for today. So firstly, just to help you guys understand what's actually different with GA4 and how does it differ as a platform. Next will be how to set up your GA4 for success. Make sure you're tracking all your key actions and stuff like that. And then how do you actually visualize your most important data? So it is a completely new platform and it's a bit harder to get to the reports that you want. So if we throw back to July this year when GA4 was made mandatory, you're probably asking a couple of questions. So clients have been asking us, like, why is my data different in GA4 compared to Universal Analytics? And you might have UTMs from campaigns that aren't working anymore. And then goals and events seem to have disappeared and your data is just harder to find. So hopefully we can answer some of these questions today. And firstly, just to touch on what's actually different with GA4. We've kind of pulled out like the main differences that we've seen with clients and like that Google has pointed out. But just to explain why are these things actually different and to boil it down to, I guess, the key reason for that. So they are completely separate platforms. The way GA4 works, it tracks things differently to how Universal Analytics used to work. If you think about it, Universal Analytics was created over 15 years ago, so it kind of uses old technology, I suppose. What that actually means for platforms is that GA4 tracks everything as individual events, whereas the older version would have looked at individual page views. So every time someone loads a page, that's what used to send data to Google. Whereas now Google has a much more robust way of tracking interactions. It can basically build up a much more robust data set. So it is built for now and built to last into the future. But that explains why these elements are different. Some of them are bigger than others. I think the difference in metrics is probably the biggest one. There are differences in data storage and reports as well, just because it's kind of developed to be a bit more of a privacy-centric platform. But one of the main things I think that we've been asked over the past year is, why are my GA4 reports not matching up with reports from the last platform? And there's the technology aspects that I talked about. So the tracking code that sits on a website is slightly different. It's more robust and it can collect more data. So that's part of that reason. And then the other reason is just the metrics that you see as well. They're slightly different. We have a breakdown here and it comes directly from Google. So you can see that the user metric in GA4 is actually slightly different to the user metric from Universal Analytics as well. So what that actually means is that if you're comparing users in GA4 to users in an old report, they're just not going to match up directly. even sessions are slightly different as well. So in the reports you see, it's not as useful to kind of compare them like for like, and they're not going to add up. But I think the key thing is just trust that GA4 is a different platform. It's built for now and it's built to last into the future. So not to be too concerned if your reports aren't matching up directly. Um, and that's the differences in the platforms. One thing is that a lot of people have opened the new GA4 account this year, and we have noticed a lot of like common issues. So this slide here, I would almost treat this as a checklist to just go through, make sure your GA4 account is set up properly and doesn't have these issues, because in the long term it will just mean you can measure less. So data retention, as I mentioned, is 2 months by default, which isn't a long time to store your data, but you can change this to a longer period. So we definitely recommend going into your settings, changing that to the maximum period possible, and making sure you're not missing any data. And the next thing is a setting for enhanced measurement. So you can switch this on. You don't have to do anything else. It just means that you're collecting more data and you're not missing out on any opportunities to optimize and just get an insight into what your users are doing. And Google Signals is another option that you can turn on for more enhanced remarketing and using your data to the best way you can. UTMs is another like pretty common issue. I'll talk about that in the next slide, but it's gotten a lot stricter. And then just make sure you're linked up to all the products that you can. So especially if you're using the Google Ads grant, to make sure you've linked your Google Ads to your Google Analytics and get the both or the best out of both platforms there. And then just turn on your conversions, which we'll touch on as well later on. But UTM is one of the issues that clients seem to have. GA4 has made this a lot stricter. So you might have UTM set up for social campaigns or even email campaigns. If you're seeing high amounts of like unassigned traffic in your reports, or even a big spike in like paid other traffic, 99% of the time it's down to how your UTMs are set up. So things that might have worked in the older platform are no longer working in GA4, which is what we've seen. So this table should kind of give a good description of what you need to do if you're having this issue. And Google has a much more like, a larger source of this, but you can always just make sure you're using the correct UTMs and you're not having this unassigned traffic in GA4, because you kind of want to see what your platforms are actually doing performance wise and how much donations and stuff like that are coming from the money you're spending on channels. So that's the differences in the platforms and how to set it up for success. The next step would then be to make sure you're tracking your key events and you have goals and audiences and stuff set up. The first option would be to set this up in GA4 itself. And to be honest, it's not as user friendly. You can see here, it's not the most user friendly interface. You have to mess around with parameters and values and stuff like that. And so it is an option if you want to use it, but yeah, it's not the most user friendly. And one thing to call out with goals as well, they all have to be lowercase and no spaces, which is just a funny quirk with GA4, I guess. But our recommendation would definitely be to use Google Tag Manager. It's much more robust and you can do a lot more as far as tracking and conversions go. But you can also use it to manage your pixels and add custom code to your website, and we can do loads of stuff. So definitely would recommend having this on your website if you don't already. It's pretty easy to set up a new tag. All you have to do is click new tag. New tag. We have all the steps here. I think the main thing you need to worry about is just obviously have GA4 event as your tag type. Then you need your event name, which remember has to be lowercase with no spaces. And then your measurement ID, which you can pull out of your settings. And the most important thing is probably that your trigger is correct. So that's what actually fires your tag, and it's the thing that you're trying to track. So the example here, we're just looking at page views. So I guess a good example would be if you're trying to track donations and you have a thank you page, and it's a pretty easy way to make sure you're tracking every donation. So obviously the page URL just has to match what your thank you page says. So once that's set up and published, it's going to start sending events into GA4, and it does take about 24 hours for that to register. And then you just have to switch it on as a conversion, and that's when you can start sending those to your paid media platforms like Google Ads and start bidding towards them and stuff like that. The next thing that we definitely recommend as well are setting up custom audiences. So in your settings, you'll have a section for audiences here, and there are templates you can use. But if you want to set up a more custom audience, we do have some suggestions here. based on our audience today. So like a nice one would be donors. So like if you want to set up an audience based on that conversion tag we just talked about, you then build up a nice audience of people that have completed a donation. And ultimately the thing with this is just to make sure you have an audience built with high intent, highly engaged users. It's then going to allow you to, I guess, maximize your return on investments from your paid media and getting the most out of your budget, and you're targeting people that are, highly engaged and most likely to kind of be interested in what your website or your charity has to offer. Um, so that's setting your GA4 up for success. We definitely recommend setting up your goals, having a look at audiences and seeing what you can do there. And the next step will be how do you actually see your information and get to your key reports. So as I mentioned, like a big problem that people started having in July is like they've logged into this brand new platform. They don't actually know how to find their reports that they were so used to seeing. So um, if all you remember today, hopefully it's this, just how to find these key reports. And the first one is the traffic acquisition report. And if you don't use it already, would highly recommend just remembering how to get there. We kind of have a map there of how to get there in terms of like finding it in your reports. But it just gives a good breakdown of all your channels, the main metrics, and obviously you can add smaller filters to this and see how your different channels are performing. The next one would probably be the pages and screens report. So it's not as self-explanatory when you see this within your account, but would definitely recommend getting familiar with this report as well. And just making sure that it's switched to page path and screen class. So that way you get a nice breakdown of all your top performing pages by URL. So again, it's accompanied by all the main metrics. You can add, smaller filters to this if you want. But I think those two reports in combination are really powerful and should definitely be of good use. Another thing you might notice in GA4 is that you have this explorations tab. So to be honest, I wouldn't recommend getting too bogged down in this. One thing we do find that's been pretty useful over the last year is the user or the path exploration report. So it gives you a nice breakdown of user journey, which we have kind of given an example of here. So a good use case would be looking at donor drop off. So if you have a particular page that like users are getting stuck on, they're not getting to the ultimate, donation page, and it's a really nice report and can give you some great insight in terms of that. So that's within GA4 itself. Another tool that we found really useful is Looker Studio. So it's a Google owned product. It sits outside of GA4, but it does link seamlessly to all Google products, including GA4, or if it's Google Ads or DV360. So it's something that our clients have found really useful over the past year with this, I suppose, migration period. And you can pull all your GA4 data in. And I guess the key selling point is that you can see all your website data in one view. You don't have to go through all these different reports and learn how to find them. So it's something that's been really useful. We have linked a free template that you can use if you want. If you don't use it already, it's going to give you a nice kind of understanding of what the platform can do, and hopefully solve a bit of a headache of having to go in and find these reports. So that's linked there. And my email is linked in case you have any questions on how to set that up. But we do have full steps here of basically all you need to do is pull in your own Google Analytics data. And once that's set up, you'll have all your top line metrics in one view and just a taster of what it can do. We do set up, much more customized and robust dashboards for our own clients. But it definitely is a nice tool if you're kind of still getting used to GA4. So that's all I have for today. Just wanted to give a top line overview of the differences between the platforms and explain how to get the most out of GA4 by setting up things like tracking and audiences, and then just how to get to your key reports and visualize your most important data. I did want to just finish on a note on privacy and cookies and tracking and where this is going. So just to point out, you still need consent to track users with GA4. It is kind of advertised as this cookieless solution. And that's correct. It does rely less on third-party cookies, but you still need users to opt in before you're tracking people with this platform. And the best way is to just talk to your IT team, and they can audit, how your site is responding to consent and making sure that you're not tracking people that haven't consented. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to touch on there. We also just have our own Havas Media and Cookieless Future webinar that's every now and again. But if you're curious about the future of analytics and like what's going on in the world of cookieless, would definitely recommend um, signing up to those. They are not too regular, but it can give you a kind of really solid understanding of like what we're doing as a global agency in this space and what's coming down the tracks. And if anyone has any questions on what I talked about today or would like to, learn more about what we do as an agency in this space, and my email address is linked there. I'm now going to pass on to the paid social guys. Um, so I'll let them take over from here.
Thank you so much, Adam. So I am Zeel Kothari and I am the paid social specialist here at Havas.
And I'm Linda. I'm the social media executive here at Havas.
Sorry, my screen has frozen. Perfect. So today, Linda and I will take you through some of the best practices that you can apply to improve your paid social strategy for your charity organizations. So just the agenda for today. So I'll give you a brief introduction about what paid social versus organic social is. Also a deep dive into paid social fundraising landscape for 2023. Then my colleague Linda will take you through the golden rules to create engaging paid social ads, and also a quick recap and if you have any questions for us at all. So many people do get confused between paid and organic social media. But just to clarify, paid social media is something wherein you put budget to budget behind your posts, whereas organic media is something wherein you don't put any budget behind your posts. It's just randomly posting on any of your social media channels. They kind of have overlapping benefits. So some of them would be to connect with your target audience, also promote your quality content and gain new customers. Well, I have a question for you. How many of you have tried to gain new followers through paid social media? So to answer that question, actually, you cannot gain new followers through paid social media. Actually, for that, you will have to try a long-term organic media strategy. Um, Moving on to the next slide. So many people do come to different social media channels for different reasons, and it's very important to consider this before starting to work on your paid social media strategy. So just to give you an example, what's already happened, Facebook and Instagram would fall under this category, and usually people go on these platforms to connect with their friends or family, also to share photos and videos. What's happening right now, so TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitter would fall under this category. So on TikTok, people go to watch and create video contents, also keep up with any viral trends. On Snapchat, people talk to their friends privately and also interact with a lot of lenses and filters. And on Twitter, people go to read about current events or any current news, and also to take part in the current discussions that are happening all around the world. What could happen? LinkedIn and Pinterest would fall under this category. So on LinkedIn, people usually go to connect with their colleagues and also to apply for jobs and find for new jobs, whereas Pinterest is a very inspirational platform wherein people go to look out for ideas. Just to give you an example, if you're building a new house, you can go on Pinterest to look up for any interior designing ideas. So firstly, I would like to deep dive into the paid social fundraising landscape as it has been changing over the past few years. And these are some of the trends that we have seen and we think that would be beneficial for fundraising organizations. So the charitable giving report from the Blackboard Institute revealed that there was a 42% increase in online giving in the past 3 years. Not only this report, but we've seen similar other reports from different other sources where when it comes to online giving, they've seen similar results. Second one would be Facebook is not going anywhere. Facebook is still one of the most important platforms when it comes to fundraising and is still the best place for charities to advertise on as it keeps on generating the highest amount of donations among the other social platforms. at least in our experience, as well as we've seen that other advertisers see the same. And last but not the least, it's very important to test out new platforms and also test new ad formats. Also, it's important to consider and try and test these things, because it will help you to continuously improve your performance, and also you can find good new opportunities through it. So many charities are considering experimenting on TikTok these days, because they've seen that TikTok is generating higher attention metrics, such as reach, impressions, as well as video views. So, like I just mentioned, today's paid social landscape is ever changing, and we've seen significant changes when it comes to collecting user data, especially after GDPR and iOS 14 updates, wherein user can actually opt out of marketing cookies on different websites as well as apps. And because of the less control of over users' data, we've seen that the creatives have actually become the means of targeting, and it has become so pivotal when it comes to targeting your users, and then eventually they actually convey appropriate signals to the different platforms. Also, it's very successful to usually it's successful ads are always really memorable, and it's important that creativity and imagination and unique concepts to produce something original. So yeah, technology is very vital, but so is creativity. So creativity is super essential, and it helps to create meaningful connections when it comes to your donors. And last but not the least, it's very important today more than ever, actually, that your content stands out from your competitors, and it has to be unique when your target audience looks at it. So yeah. Now I would like to actually hand it over to Linda, who will take you through the golden rules to create engaging paid social ads.
Thank you very much, Sil. So in this chapter, I will talk about briefly the success point in order to create effective paid social media ads. We find out that using these 4 points, we are able to create impactful ads. The first one is for sure to have an impactful creative. It's important nowadays to have a creative that catches the attention of the users and make them aware of the brand itself. It's also very important to understand, of course, where your audience is in order to pick the platform in which your audience is and make them understand about your brand. The format, when we developed a campaign, it's very important to align the format with the objective of the campaign, and of course having a text that is short and is impactful, and it's suitable for paid social ads. Also, we have to remember that each platform require a character limit, and when we create ads, we always make sure that we stick to the character limit in order to avoid transaction. So the first point is for sure the creative. So having an eye-catching images is key nowadays, and it's important to have the image itself to display the main message. In some platforms, we require a video that contains the same message because we don't have a text over it, while on other platforms we can use both the text and a video or an image. We also have to pay attention that the ads has a CTA button that is aligned with the objective of the campaign, and that we have to make sure that the creative is developed for the platforms in which we want to advertise. For example, in platforms like TikTok, we can run just videos, and on other platforms, we can run also other formats. So talking about ad formats, as I explained a little bit before, on the different platforms, we can find different formats. For example, there are platforms in which we can run different formats and platforms in which not. Like an example would be TikTok, in which we can run just video ads, while on other platforms like Meta, we can run other kind of ad formats. And it's important to keep in mind that when we create a strategy and we develop the ads based on the platforms in which we want to advertise in. So what's the best format to achieve our goal? So thanks to our experience, we have found out that some ad formats performs best with some objective. For example, video ads are working best with an awareness objective, while carousel ads are working best with a consideration objective. This is to say that this is to take as a pinch of salt. So it is based on our experience, but every brand and every campaign is different. So we have always to keep in mind the objective of the campaign, the ratio of the ads itself, and the goal that the campaign will need to have in order to perform, to get the best out of our campaigns. So this is how the same ads is shown on different platforms. We can see that on platforms like Instagram stories, the image is key because it doesn't contain text, while on TikTok as well, the image is key, but it contains just a small text. Otherwise, on other platforms and placements like Facebook newsfeed, we can also add a small text over the video or the image. And it's important to pay attention to those differences when we developed creative in order to make the best out of our advertising campaigns. And of course, in some platforms, we need to have a creative that is designed for sound off, like on Facebook, where people use it just without sound, while on TikTok, it's compulsory to have a sound on. So it's very important in every campaign to adopt a learn and test approach. In fact, when we create a campaign, we always make adjustment over it, and we are trying to understand what's the best kind of ad formats that works, what's the best platforms, and of course the best copy and buttons. For example, we found out in other campaigns that it's important to convey a meaningful message to our audience and to make them an impact, to like resonate well with our target audience. When we talk about copy, it's always best to go straight to the point. So it's important, of course, to develop a copy based on the phase that our campaign is. For example, for an awareness phase, there is kind of an initial phase to the campaign. It's important to give an overview of the brand and make them understand a bit more about the brand itself. While on the consideration phase, it's important to give more information about the brand itself and about the possibility to learn more about. While on the conversion phase, it's important. So our goal is to make them convert. So in this case, donate. So we want the clients to make aware of the benefits of donation and what's the impact of donation, and what they can do with the donation that they have. Thanks very much. I will hand it over to Alan, and he will talk about how. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You can thanks a million to Linda and to Keil for taking us through that. I've now learned an awful lot. I've spent a lot of time trying to find new followers on social and failed for good reason. And thanks to Adam for that presentation. I want to take you through one last thing. Firstly, to thank you all for being with us today and for being with us the last couple of days. When we started this journey, we started talking about donor journeys when we surveyed all the people who wanted to take part in these seminars. That was the thing that stood out above everything else. People wanted to talk about donor journeys. How do we communicate with our donors? How do we retain our donors? How do we keep a contact and a conversation going with them? And I said then, and I'll repeat now, that of all the metrics that are available to you, of all the techniques and all the tools that are available to you, by far and away the most powerful is your email. I said at the first seminar, I'll repeat it now. The simple thing that you can do to improve your digital fundraising is send more emails and send better emails. It's as simple as that. It really is such an extraordinarily powerful tool. You all know this, but I want to sort of take you through a couple of things that I've learned through working on them with various clients and through researching it to help you try think about it in a different way. James, if you can share the screen there for me. So to talk about the power of email. There you go. The power of digital technology that flies through things for some reason. The power of email. Why do we use email? What the ideal email looks like. This is what we want to take you through. And some top tips. Firstly, why email? On the first seminar, we sort of did a little survey, a little quiz that we did with you, if you remember, for those who were there, asking you to consider how many emails did you actually receive yesterday. When you think about email, the way it actually works, how many did you receive yesterday? How many of those did you actually open? And of the ones that you opened, how many did you actually read? Now, people say that it takes between 40 and 100 emails a day the average person gets. You're all familiar with this. You send probably the same amount. The key to it is to sort of know that we send out emails to all our donors and supporters, and we sort of punish ourselves that they're not opening them, or they're not responding to them, or they're not getting back to us. Whereas the thing about emails is it's this constant level of communication that's not actually meant to be opened all the time or read all the time. People don't do that. If you remember, these were the opening rates for non-profits and charities. So 25% of your emails will be opened. The highest of those is 28%. Only 2.79 will have a click-through rate. So your average person is only going to open a certain amount of your emails, and of those that they open, they're only going to respond or click through to a certain amount of content. You've got to remember that. The real power that email comes from is because it allows you to do all these things. It allows you to segment your audience and your donors, to learn more about them. It allows you to deliver a very direct personal message that's personalized to them, not just by their name, but you can segment it, that you can do those standard things like celebrate donor landmarks. You can speak very directly to me on my own personal device. That's key. It can be easily tested and tracked at all stages. From the moment it's sent to the moment that they respond to it, over time, over the length of their journey with you, you can track and you can measure. That's what makes the forum so attractive. That helps you to identify your most active donors, and therefore the donors that are most likely to give, and the donors who are most likely to want to support you. It's cost effective, far cheaper than print, far more effective than print in that regard. This is key, and it's a thing that's often not said about email. It establishes a regular pattern of communication, because you can send emails to people regularly. And if you do send emails to people regularly, it opens up this door. It opens up this sort of natural level of communication that they expect to get it from. I've said this before. I'm a great supporter of the Alzheimer's Society because of my father, Multiple Sclerosis Society because of my mother, huge Shamrock Rovers supporter. I expect to get emails from them, and I do on a regular basis, and I have that open line of communication. That's key to it. 48, according to Neon surveys done by Neon, 48% of donors preferred updates and appeals via email than print. Like, it's really becoming quite dominant, and it raises money. Again, estimates that you'll read and research say anywhere between 20 and 30% of fundraising is now done through email. So the ideal email, what does it look like? How do you make the best possible email? Establish the case for sending more of them. How do you make them better? So the key to remember with an email is that it starts before it begins, in that its subject line is hugely important. The preview text, if you're not familiar with preview text, you should look into it. It's estimated that up to like 45% extra is raised in funds by appeals that use a preview text. If you don't use preview text, what the email does, it usually appears in my inbox and it'll begin with the first bit of the email, but you can, in a lot of programs, have a designated text that will appear in that section so you can get your succinct message out. If you do that, all the research says you'll do better. Who the email is coming from is absolutely key as well. All these things play a huge role, and if whether or not it's personalized, whether the email reads my inbox, dear Alan. All of those things. I know who it's coming from. It's addressed to me. It's got an intriguing or an eye-catching or an engaging subject line, and it's got preview text that gives me a succinct message of it. I'm far more likely to open the email. The subject line. You've seen all these tips yourselves. I've collected them. I collect them all the time. These are the ones that I use or try to use. Reports say that 47% decide to read an email based solely on the subject line alone. That's self-reporting, of course, but it's still interesting. MailChimp say that if you include words like help and reminder and percent off, they're actually bad for opening rates because people see what's coming. They think it's very good that you make it about the recipient, that you personalize, that you use the word you. That fundamental fundraising tool, use the word you a lot. Questions can work well. They're a little bit intriguing, encourage people to open up to find out what's more inside. Leading with the recipient's name, framing the gift when you're inside in terms of impact rather than amount. Very good fundraising tool generally. And when you're inside the email, having a breakdown of clear, tangible price points, that helps as well. Having a deadline can help as well. This is really interesting. I found this interesting. This comes from a research done recently by Neon, that having positive emotions in subject lines increased opening rates. So I'm using words like support and survey, which suggests sort of engagement, more positive engagement, increased opening rates. Having words like functional words, business words like reminder, member, meeting, had a negative impact on opening rates. Like everything else that's said, that you read online, that you read in books, that you see here today, these are all sort of rules of thumbs and guidelines that people have learned over time. The essential thing is that you need to do at all times is test your own. Test your own appeals, your own messages to your own donors, see how they respond to these things. But it's interesting that other people are finding this is happening, so it's good. These are good sort of parameters for you to test in your own. A/B testing, it's the key to everything. The preview text, this is 53, there was the thing from Neon One. Neon One did this report on fundraising emails in charities, surveyed 1,600 charities worldwide. You'll find it online. We'll include a link into it. It's a really, really fascinating report. You should get your hands on it. This said that 53.85% more was raised by people who use preview texts. That's extraordinary. Personalize it, use first name, or talk to the attributes of the person who was there, called Dear Animal Lover, for example. Then what does your email look like? This is a template email that we've made for this occasion, talking key features that we find through it that we try to adhere to, but you should test in your own context. Use imagery. Big imagery at the start works well. Video works well with it as well, particularly if you click through and play it. Too much imagery may trigger spam filters, but a big image to start you off is a very good thing. Use large font because, as we'll see, the vast majority of emails are read on a mobile phone and not on a laptop. Short paragraphs, for all the same reasons that the fundraising letters are written the way they are. Break up the blocks of text, make them easy to understand. Have your CTA, have it very clear, have a big colored button, have it above the fold, have it pre-scroll, have it as early as you can. Basically, so when I look at my phone, I don't have to go down 3 or 4 times before I get to the action button. Use highlighting with a bold line in the middle of that. Make lines pop out as much as you can. You would have probably seen this research that's true on digital as it is on paper, that we read in the shape of the letter F. We scan the top, which is why the image works so well. We then go down the side and we scan across on key lines. So having bolded lines or colored buttons attract the eye as you go down. That's how people scan. Use single columns. Some email providers allow you to split and have multiple columns. Don't do that. Keep it all single columns so it's easily scrollable on a mobile phone. Repeat your call to action. Have one call to action per email. Repeat it. Keep the email as short as possible. Keep it succinct is a general rule of thumb. Although I remember being at a fundraising conference last year when the Greenpeace, I think it was, said that long form emails had worked better for them in one particular campaign. Again, the key is to test. Use a PS. It seems counterintuitive when it's not on a printed page. But because we scroll down, we often quite don't stop until we reach the end, which means the first place that we'll stop on an email would be the PS. Include an unsubscribe button always and make it clear. Don't try to hide it. We could keep on trying to encourage people to embrace unsubscribes as a positive. And have a footer. Have a footer with a donate button in it on every email you send is a good tip. Don't be afraid to ask in that way. This is essential. As we've said through all those points, you've got to make it mobile. Campaign Monitor, the leaders in the field, say that at least 50% of all emails are opened on a mobile device. So that's what they're going to be read with and engaged with. So if it doesn't work on a mobile device, don't send it. Because of this, they say that 70% of all ill-formatted emails, things that don't look quite right on a mobile phone, will be deleted within 3 seconds. So make it fit your mobile. Good way to do this. This is interesting stats that came from litmus.com, that of the email clients that are out there, 57% of people are on Apple, 29% on Gmail, and only 4% on Outlook. One thing, I know some people do this, is set up an account for yourself with each of those. When you're going to send an email, send a test to each of them. Make sure it's working on your phone, on your laptop, on your tablet. Just have a look at it, make sure it's sitting all right before you send it. Make growing your list a priority. Your database is absolutely key to you. You need to segment it, you need to interrogate it, and you need to grow it. So add sign-ups to every page on your website, collect emails at every public event you have, promote sign-up on every mailing, promote your newsletter if you have an e-newsletter, or your mailing lists on your social media. Constantly be encouraging people to contact you. Offer them incentives, reports, content, in order to engage you, to get their email addresses. But just as big as priority as that is shrinking your list. So make your unsubscribe clear. You don't want people who don't want to be there. Delete unresponsive addresses, but be patient. Be patient and ruthless. It might take people a long time before they finally engage with you. But if they're opening and if they're clicking through the odd time, stay with them. A donation may well come in time. It can take 12, 18 months. But if they're not opening, they're not clicking through, get rid of them off your database. Make it as physical as you can and as tight as you can. Some people say consider double sign up if you're having problems with bots and things signing up to you. Have a double sign up thing where you send them back an email and they have to confirm that they wanted to sign up. Remember that email is just the start. Your landing page, where they go to when they click on your email is key. Remember that point we made in the previous seminar, that you need to be who they expect you to be. You need to be clear and simple. You need to thank people, demonstrate impact, to be emotive. All at their first port of call when they land first, after engaging with that email. And think about the journey. Create a really people often send out these sort of quite succinct, short, welcome emails. Thanks for signing up our mailing list. We'll keep you informed, as opposed to being really fulsome with that content. Remember, more is more. These are the kind of volumes that people are sending out. I'll go back to that. 92% of charities worldwide are sending out newsletters. 41% of them send them monthly. 27% send them quarterly. And there's the stats for appeals. 74% send appeals by email. 67% send them quarterly. 3% of them send them weekly. More is more. The real power of email, though, is this: that because it opens that consistent line of communication, it allows you to be always findable. I think of myself as an example, and I analyze this. I'm subscribed to the Red Cross and to UNICEF. I have professional interest, obviously, as well as a supporter interest. Emails appear from them regularly in my inbox. I'll go, there's the Red Cross writing to me. That's fine. There's the Alzheimer's Society. Fine. I'll open some of them, not all of them. But when I want to, when I'm interested, when it means something to me, they're there and I can find them. I have opened emails from the Red Cross and from UNICEF in the last week or two since the situation in Gaza and Israel started, and I'm more attuned to that. I've opened those emails to see what they're saying. And you never know where your donors are going to be. Everybody talks in digital about this idea of being always on. One of the key ways that you can always be on is to be in constant communication with your donors, so that when they need you, when they want to help, when their connection to your organization is active in their hearts and they want to do something about it, you are there because you're in constant communication with them. The last thing I'll leave you with this is to remember to test. Before you send out emails to anybody, please test them. So if I listened to my own advice, I wouldn't have sent out a reminder for this seminar saying it was on October 5th and wouldn't have had to send out a reminder afterwards, apologize and say, no, actually it's on the 19th. Test it. Test everything. Test all the time. You can stop sharing there, James. I'm going to invite the guys back in again. It's going to get quite crowded. It's maybe just one of Linda and Keil if you sit in. And Adam, again, I want to thank everybody who's taken part here. I want to thank everybody. I know we've gone a little bit over time. Thanks everybody for joining in. There were some questions. There's one coming through about email as to where what's the best time to send an email, and the short answer to that is test it. Some people say in the mornings before people start business. The weekends are generally bad. Friday evenings can be good. I remember somebody telling me once at a fundraising conference they found Friday evenings was a particularly good time. But again, test it yourselves. I want to point out that I'm from Persuasion Republic. For those of you who don't know us, we are a full service agency exclusively working with charities, not-for-profits, fundraising, strategies, digital, all of that. We're here to help you. That's our passion. That's what we want to do. If there is any questions and anything's come up over these seminars, any way that you want to talk to us about how we can help you or explore how we can increase your digital, or suggestions that you'd like to see covered in future seminars that we will run, the same. And the same is true of Havas. We're here to help. Please contact us at any times. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time. We'll email you all with the specials. We've been doing some surveys with a lot of you may be aware of about charity advertising. What's working, what's not. We're going to be sharing the results of those surveys with you. John, my colleague John, and Caroline from here, we'll be emailing you all about that. Was that another question coming through there, James? Access to slides. Yes, we'll be sending this PDF around to everybody's registered, plus a link to the YouTube, so you can watch it all again. If you want to. There's a long weekend for you now. And we'll send around the slides and links to the videos of the previous two seminars as well. So it'll all be there. I know we've gone through an awful lot, particularly the guys have gone through a lot technically, but all the slides will be there, and the links that we talked about will be as well. There's another question coming through, James, is there?
Yes, looked like it was best way to get set up with GA4. The Google Guides, they can be a bit complex. I would say just start off with a couple of reports that you're familiar with, like the two I mentioned, traffic acquisition report and then the page views report. Don't get too bogged down by everything else it has to offer. Just try and get comfortable with one or two features and then try and build out from there. I think even people that are very familiar with Google Analytics logged into this platform and it's completely different. It's just hard to find the stuff that you're used to seeing. So I would say have it set up for your website and get comfortable with one or two reports and just go from there. Google is a good resource if you're ever asking about specific questions. There's always somehow someone that's had that exact specific problem at some stage. But yeah, that's my advice. Just get comfortable with one or two reports and don't worry too much about all the extra features. But yeah, that's my best advice, I think, for that.
It's a key point, actually. It's a thing that we covered in the first seminar, and it's a real mantra of ours. Certainly mine when I first started getting into digital all those years ago, that it seems quite daunting. It's so complex, and there's so many tools to you can feel overwhelmed by it, and you can feel that if we don't do everything, that we're not doing it right. Whereas the key is simplicity. Do little steps. Take the steps that you can do. If you make one improvement, if you engage with one little device, take one tip from this, that will improve it. And as your skill level and knowledge of it and capacity grows, you take more and more steps. But it's all about simple steps. And simple steps, again, just sending more emails exponentially improves where you are. Engaging with Google Analytics a little bit will exponentially improve where you are. It's all about little steps. You don't have to do it all. And there are loads of people, us and Havas, who are here to help and to share with you and to guide you through it at any point. So please, please, please do. The whole point of this was for us to reach out to you digitally to say we're here to help. Please do contact us. There's more questions coming through, James, is there?
Yes, you will see.
No.
No.
Yeah, we mentioned a tool. Looker Studio was a tool we used or mentioned to help with GA4, visualizing that. If we can do a specific webinar on GA4, I don't know if that's up to me, but it's
we can certainly look at that.
Yeah. But yeah, Looker Studio, it's a great tool. There's stuff online you can see if you want to learn more about that. But I mean, yeah, GA4 is obviously pretty hot topic the last year or so. But
Yeah. We ran these seminars the first time last year. We said then they were proved popular and we got a great response. So we ran them again this year. Please do let us know. Email us, contact us through the email address you have. Let us know if you found them useful. If there are other subjects you want. If you don't want to wait till next year for more, we could look at having some in the new year or something about specific topics. Again, we're here to help and respond. So please do let us know how you found them. Would you want them longer, shorter? Would you have different topics covered? Please do let us know, and we'll respond as best we can. We're running out of questions now, James. I know we're running out of time. People are running to lunch. So we'll wrap it up there.
Yep.
Thanks to Linda, to Keil, and to Adam, and to all our presenters the past couple of weeks. Thanks to you all for being patient and staying with us. You can go have your lunch now. And for those of you who are watching the recording of this rather than watching it live on the day, we fully understand. That's why we're making the recordings and the PDFs available, because we've attended half the conferences we've attended in the same way. Thanks a million for everybody for coming on. Do let us know what you thought, what you want us to do next, and get in touch with us, please do. And we can see if we can help you in any way. Thanks a million. Enjoy the rest of your day if you can with weather that's in it. Go have your lunch.